consume too much alcohol. So I brought a really pretty young lady here to tell us that we're all bad men. Okay? No, I believe that you're going to eat perfectly over the Christmas period. And Elspeth is a health coach and actually quite a sensational lady. She's currently studying a master's degree, running 2 businesses, and there's something else too, which I think you'll probably tell us all about. But busy as, so thank you for coming to chat to us this morning.
Hello, how are you all? Big thank you, Stephen, for inviting me along. I like to spread my passion and what I enjoy about life, so tell me when to shut up or put your hand up if you have a question. So a bit of background about me, it might set the scene, is I studied psychology and did a lot of work within the domestic violence section for me. Worked for Relationships Australia and came to a point in my career where I was pretty burnt out with a lot of trauma work every day, and I started thinking about how do I do better and support people to become more empowered about their health and well-being. So from there I decided that I'd look at nutrition. I was really interested in the gut-brain connection around anxiety and mental health. So from that point, I did a bit more nutrition. I did my honours thesis based on the microbiome, fermented foods, gut health, mental health, and really explored preventative health behaviours so that we could promote more about healthy lifestyles, and how do we all live a healthy lifestyle and have a positive approach to every aspect of our life, and what are the pieces of those puzzles. So that's how I've built my business, is that I started coaching, and I would go and meet with people and talk about different areas of their life, and then I started community health. Got the cardboard boxes and taught them how to do basic things like reading food labels and understanding how sugar influences your insulin levels, and that obesity is not just about, well, I'm eating too many calories and I'm not exercising enough. It's more about your hormones and your adrenals and your thyroid, and how does your body work? Because it's an amazing machine that in this day and age we're not looking after, and we don't understand it very well. So I'm giving the education and providing the space for people to explore their health and figure out what their lifestyle philosophy is, because everybody's different. So you have your vegans and your vegetarians and your meat eaters and your people that love exercise and people that love yoga. Everybody's right, but how do they create a food philosophy, because there's so much noise around what's healthy and what's not. So we've promoted and marketed that Nutri-Grain is really healthy, but if you really look at Nutri-Grain as a product and the integrity of that product, it's got iron shavings through it. So you can literally crush that product and pull the metal out to the side and you'll have iron shavings there. So is that a healthy product? So simple things like that I'll teach people. So for me, I then started doing workshops around what I call Toowoomba Community Health Meetings. So every fortnight we were meeting, a bit like the business meeting that you have, invite speakers to come along, talk about what their philosophy is on health and well-being, how they can promote health in a positive way. And then from there, the cafe came, but I needed a bigger space, so I teach people how to ferment and so forth. So it's something that the cafe is a way for people to sit and connect and eat healthy food and see that healthy food can actually be presented and plated up and be yummy. Like it's enjoyable. So that's sort of where I've come from and to where I am today. My ultimate passion is really just building a healthy community around promoting positive health behaviours. Pretty simple. So what I thought today I'd probably talk about is your microbiome and your gut, and how over Christmas that you can best look after it. So who has heard of the concept of gut health? So it's out there at the moment being discussed. What are the things that you know about already? gut influences inflammatory diseases as well. Yep. So when we look at the simple thing of why does gluten or wheat and sugar affect our microbiome, and that's something that a lot of people go, oh, there's this gluten-free fad, what's that about? Why is it becoming this way? So is that a question that people are asking, or is it that we think that, oh, well, we should know if it's a bad thing?
I think people think that, well, this is my experience, I think people don't think about it generally, unless you've gone through some allergic process where you think you might be allergic to gluten, and so there'll always be someone at a function that has to have gluten-free, so it's gluten-free on the menu.
Yeah. And it's becoming so much more popular now that people are not eating gluten. And so over the time, when you look, it's an illness of the body attacking itself, so it's an autoimmune type disorder. So if you...
What was this probably made said it's some sort of physical reaction, I won't say disorder, but
Yeah.
oh, you can't eat that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like not, oh, if you're eating gluten-free, you're not mainstream
Yes.
type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not part of the norm.
You're not part of it, you're over there.
Yeah. You're over there, you're not a minority.
I just tried to sandwich by the way it functioned and tasted like carbon inside.
Okay, no gluten, no sugar, no taste. No.
That's all the police.
But anyway, that was my experience. You're over there.
Yeah, yeah. So I suppose when we look at the reason why, it's quite a multifaceted issue. That we take it from the start, and we look at the grain that we use. It has been modified to yield more. It is sprayed with glyphosate. The processing in itself, and how we put anti-caking agents in there, how we bleach that product. We actually transform that product from something that was quite a natural, grain, and then now into this day and age, there has been massive changes to what the integrity of the product looks like. So when we're consuming that product, we're not only consuming the grain, but everything that has been done to that grain, if that makes sense. So you will be ingesting elements of glyphosate and what happens in the plants of when it's processed. So that will assist in the gut lining being eroded. So in our gut, we have villi, which are like little mountainous ranges, and when they become affected, they start dying off, and then the integrity of that gut lining, it starts to flatten out. So you can't capture the food that's moving through the system. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is your bacteria in your gut, and how we've changed that as well. So we innately are a very clean society. We are antibacterial everything. Soaps, wipes, like it's just not a normal thing to embrace the fact that we actually need bacteria. Our body is built of 10,000 billion bacteria species. We have it on our skin, we have it in our gut, we have it all around us. So when we start manipulating our environment, our bodies are going to change, and that knock-on effect will happen. So the bacteria is also needed to help break down that product, that food. So when the bacteria imbalance occurs in our gut, then we can't utilise the nutrition from the food. So when you look at fermented foods, it actually has bacteria put into it to help break it down to be more nutritionally available to us. So when then we're transforming, having these Frankenstein foods, then we can't get the right nutrition from them because our body's not there.
What do you mean by Frankenstein foods?
I'm talking about chemically. If you look at a nutrition label, is there a nutrition label on the back of one of those? Probably is that so if I look, yeah, this was a Nutrigrain. So if you have a look at some of these, like to me, when you look at food, if it's something that can't come from a farm, and I think, well, it's not a whole product. I would like a whole product in here. So you've got, in this product alone, 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, which is quite a lot of sugar when you look at it. You need a degree. 100%. So if you have numbers on there and you have product that you don't understand, it's like MSG. If you knew your product had MSG in it, would you eat that product? Because we know the effect of that. There's 19 different names for MSG now. You know, so we don't actually know what we're eating anymore. Because when we look at how they change their product or how they would choose to redirect it to a vegetable protein, we think, oh, well, that sounds healthy, doesn't it? But it's still MSG. It still acts the same. So this is sort of how I do my work, is just really raising that awareness and that education. Do you want to hand the Nutrigrain around? Just so people can have a little...
So what did you see in that Nutrigrain?
To me, I see there's 20 different ingredients in there. So what's the effect that that's going to have?
Okay, so but what's wrong with having 20 different ingredients?
My question will be is how processed those products are, the integrity of that food, and how will that talk in your body. So if you can actually have from the farm to the plate, so fruit, veggies, whole grain on the plate, rather than going through a processing plant that then adds in anti-caking agents or binders or fillers or preservatives and flavours and colours that aren't real. So a lot of these products can be a manipulated chemical product. Does that make sense? So when you put them together, it's like strawberry flavouring.
But haven't we been eating chemical products for the last 50 years?
That's our problem. Yeah. So evolutionary, we can't adapt. You know this thing. In the evolution, if you look at how we've adapted, if you look at your great-grandmother, how healthy and vibrant, and did they have thyroid issues? Did they have the amount of ill health and inflammatory diseases that we have at the moment? What we're seeing now is that by 2020, some doctors are coining that we'll have 1 in 2 kids with autism. That's scary to me. That's a pretty intense. There's a school in Toowoomba that's got 10% autistic population. So we're already looking at stats that are going quite through the roof, and we need to start questioning for what are we doing, and we all need to be involved in shifting that and being aware of our environment and why we're becoming and creating these ill health issues, and that is around evolution, is that we're not adapted to these chemicals. We started spraying to get bigger yields. We're looking at GMO foods now to gain more yields, but what is actually happening within that product? So when I look at genetically modified food, so what's happening to the insect? The insects, their stomachs are exploding and they're imploding on the inside. So if we start eating and consuming that, and that's building up in our system, what's that innately going to do for us? So I think we have to question
I
this.
haven't heard this about insects. What's happening to the insects? Is this what...
Can I send you the research? So in terms of when insects are eating the plant and then they're dying off, is that their stomach, what is imploding, it explodes, that's how they die. You look at what the effect of the plant on the animal.
Which plant?
So we're looking at like GMO corn, soy. In Australia, we aren't actually farming that now. It's not something that we've head into. It's something that we're looking at going into. So if you look at countries that are going along with the GMO, and then you look at the research behind what the effect is on the animal or on the insect, then you've got to look at what could be the knock-on effect. So in terms of the gut lining and the integrity, is that we are putting a lot of change on it. We're not supporting our microbiome. We are look at a forest or we look at the Great Barrier Reef, we're killing off, and what's happening instead? We're having an overgrowth of species that aren't beneficial to that environment. So that will happen within us as well. So then you have overgrowth of parasites or candida or and they are there innately to create a status of in the body to eat the mercury and to eat what is happening to create more of a homeostasis in the body. So they're invited into the environment to keep us healthy. However, if you're looking at optimal health, you want your beneficial bacteria. So the microbiome then has a big impact on inflammation in the body and the gut. So then what will happen is the spread of inflammatory diseases through the body, which will then be in organs, in your vagus nerve, and then that will then have the knock-on effect to either mental health issues, so anything from anxiety, depression, schizophrenia. You're looking at then eczema to skin issues, to allergies, to diabetes, to a lot. Okay, if you look at the amount of inflammatory diseases, they're under one big roof. So autoimmune disorders. So we have to then question, why are these increasing and how do we start looking after ourselves? And ultimately, it comes back to some really simple steps, and it's eating good, healthy food. Local, seasonal, fresh from the farm. If it's not from the farm, if 90% of your day can just be a plate full of food that's fresh from the farm, then you're doing really well. Limiting your alcohol content of what you're drinking every day, which is really tricky in Christmas time. Who finds it tricky?
It doesn't have to be Christmas time.
It doesn't have to be. No, but and I said this is, one of my staff members sent me research last night, and she said, "Well, Elspeth, I'm looking at the link between alcohol consumption and addiction to celiac disease. So that link around the innate need of your gut when it's being compromised, your gut and your microbiome will override and create cravings because they need to survive, they need to be fed. So when you're feeding certain bacterias, and if you've got an overgrowth of parasites and so forth, you need to stop feeding them. But you look at how they will override any decision making, because ultimately they need to be fed. That then when people go on these diets or changing their lifestyle and they're like, oh my God, I'm just craving these foods, and it's like I get into this frenzy and I can't stop eating all these carbs. It's like, well, it's actually not about you and not about you not being able to control yourself. It is about your body's innate survival mechanism that's happening on the inside. So when you start understanding it from that perspective, you've got more ability to support your body to then look at how do you put the good bacteria in to crowd the bad bacteria out. There's a great YouTube clip, the zombie snail, and it shows the effect of how bacteria can override animals in nature. It's really quite cool. The eyes go funny. Some parasites coming out. I love showing it to kids. Anyway, so ultimately, when we look at what we're doing, and even alcohol, is that addiction can also be around bad gut health as well, and that's sugar, alcohol, and so forth. So, and celiac disease is just a knock-on effect to bad gut. And you can go down the track of epigenetics, and you can actually have a look at your own genetics. And this is something I do with clients: is if we get their DNA tested, you can find out what genetic predispositions they have, and then if they have the ticking time bomb of celiac disease, then they can make a decision to actually stop having this gluten or limiting it so that they don't end up with a celiac diagnosis. So you can have a look at it that way. But there's elements of all of that DNA testing. Is they're doing a lot about then if you have that, then you get your breast removed. Or my question is, do you actually live a healthy lifestyle and you do preventative health measures? And you keep, I don't know. So that's my side of the argument with that. And I suppose that if we can open up that discussion within a community, then we can support each other to innately achieve our health goals rather than be told how to do it. That you actually, as a individual, can empower yourself with what you want to do towards managing your health, because we tend to give that power away to other people to make that decision. And so I think when we're aware, we can make more considered choice and so forth.
Have you examined the relationship of marketing to the foods that people are eating? Because I find, for me personally, I think you said it earlier, people are giving over that decision process to someone else. So when you look at the cereals and the manufactured products, heavily marketed, heavily fine-tuned for taste, consistency, manufacturability, giving you the pleasure of eating that food. We also have in our society here, well, let's say Western society, a celebration of food now. I mean, half of our TV shows are about making foods, some of them not necessarily very good for you. Our holiday season is all about consumption of food and drinks. Have you looked at the battle you've got in front of you of fighting that marketing? Because I agree with everything you say, and my wife and I have made a choice on when we eat foods we make ourselves.
Yeah.
We have very low manufactured content. And it's actually very hard to resist, like we've got grandchildren coming up in a couple of days, and there's a discussion, shall I say, maybe an argument about how much sweet stuff should be in the house for them. I say zero because I believe sugar is a poison.
Yeah.
That's the way I've gone. I've used that in my head.
Yep.
Help me. So, have you looked at the marketing and what the effect is having on our society with the consumption of foods?
Oh, 100%. You're 100% on the mark. You know, it's that we, in terms of marketing, it's marketed very well, very specifically on social media, on TV. It's everywhere. And for me, when I look at, do I focus on that? Like, I've chosen in my life to not read newspapers, read magazines. And as Stephen understands, I don't really watch movies. And I don't partake in things that don't benefit me and my lifestyle. And I've done that by choice. People might say that's really weird. But if we can make a choice of how we influence our own life and how we're aware of that, is I could focus on the marketing and that could frustrate me. Or I focus on just going and talking to people, and with the community that we have in Toowoomba, it's actually we have a big health community here, very health conscious people, and I focus on that. And when people would like to discuss their health, they come into the cafe and they say, "Oh, Elspeth, this is what I'm dealing with." And the cafe was an element of being able, all my staff are well educated on what we do. I've got a lady who, she had ovarian cancer and she's 6 years free of cancer. She did 100% natural therapies. I've got another staff member who's on her own health journey towards, she had a business and she was in that high rolling corporate, and she just was like, this is not doing me any good. So she stepped back. And I think when you start surrounding yourself with people who understand, then that community can grow. And I think the only way we're going to shift this is by a grassroots, that we on the ground vote with our feet, and we come together and say, I'm not going to buy those products. I'm going to, like, my relationship with the farmers that I get my meat from, I know that they love their animals. I know they look after them. I know how they feed them. And it's the same with my fruit and veg. So I think when we go back to what our philosophy is and really who we are and what our connection is with our food and each other, is then ultimately, to me, then marketing, it will always be there. And don't spend time focusing on what you're passionate about and how you want to empower people, to have conversations with people that come in and, they'll sit down, okay, this is what's just happened in my life, and to give them research papers or to say, oh, look, you could go talk to this therapist or you could send them on their way. Like that to me is what I focus on. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not that. Like it's hard. Like I've got kids. They eat crap food too. They want the latest this or this, but I don't buy it for them. Grandma will do. Grandma and granddad. Yeah. That's exactly right. You can spoil, like you can spend time with people in another way, and it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around food. Or it can revolve around food, and it's healthy food. A lot of the women that come in and do my courses, or even I've had a lot of older men come in recently to do the courses, and they get together and they'll make their kombucha and their kefir and their fermented veggies, and then they start talking about it, and their friendship blossoms from there. If they buy in bulk, then they'll share that food in bulk so that they can reduce their cost of food. So it's another way of connecting, but just a different discussion and a different way of doing it. So
Talking about your preferences, sometimes eating raw foods and back to the basics, what sort of priority do you put on organically grown foods?
I think it depends on your family's budget and what you can have as a sustainable lifestyle. If you can grow veggies, if you're in that position to be able to do that. If you go to the farmers markets or you buy from local producers, in Toowoomba we've got a lot of fruit and veg producers that don't have an organic label, but when you talk to them about how they grow their product, it's all pesticide free. It's expensive for them to get certified. And when you understand this is a huge process for them, it's not financially viable for a lot of families. So, but then talking to them and understanding how they look after their farm, to me then that makes sense. And then you'll find that that fruit and veg tends to be cheaper than what's at mainstream supermarkets. So I'm not it has to have this organic label type person. I appreciate the organic label and I appreciate what that product does, but I think we've also got to be aware of what the other options are.
Non-organic grown is better than crap out of the box.
Yeah, like you've got to look at what's real. It's a sort of question of going, well, I had this lady ask me, would you eat a tinned pineapple or would you have a fresh pineapple? Or this, and I'm like, well, no, if you were a family that had allergies to pineapple, you wouldn't eat it, or if you could only afford tinned pineapple, or you could afford fresh pineapple, like it's really it's that choice of your philosophy of how do you build it. So that's that if you build your philosophy around your food and health and well-being, it's likely to be a sustainable lifestyle. And that's sustainability is the key, because a lot of people will start diets because they think they have to, and it's not a sustainable behaviour. Does that? It's true.
It's true. It's true. It's not a sustainable behaviour in it, and also you're conditioned to buy food and store it for a week. Where you go to other countries around the world, you go to villages where they produce food every day. They shop every day.
Yep.
The local markets every day. We don't do that in Australia. We're conditioned to buy, put it in the fridge, so you have to buy foods that got preservatives in them, it's got to last,
Yep.
etc., etc. So there's a lot of things that affect this
100%.
topic you're talking
It
about.
does. It's multifaceted.
So I think we've just run out of time. But the point I think that's come of this is that there's no silver bullet. This is
There is silver bullet is going in
The silver bullet, just to give you an example, Steve, is when the milk controversy about farmers being paid for their milk by big Coles, Woolworths, they were getting screwed, and people
having